Hi, you've clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Sunday. Here we are, the first day of August, and the month is kicking off with some uptick in activity in the Atlantic. We've got a tropical wave coming in the Western Caribbean. It's not in the best upper level environment, and although it will be improving over the next day or so, and you could see a low try to form in here, I doubt it will have time to do anything much and should move into Central America before having a chance to develop. The big eye catcher today is Invest 91L over here in the Eastern Atlantic, which came from Invest 90L, really the same circulation for both systems, but they declassified it, then reclassified it as an Invest. So they changed the name to 91L, and you can see the spin starting to form up with this. Let's look at the close-up view here. You can see the broad low over here, and this is still rather broad and elongated, but thunderstorm activity has picked up with the system over the last day or so, and this is starting to take on a developing look. Back in the large view here, notice the kink in the intertropical convergence zone over here. Yesterday this was all flat in here and pretty much just looked like the ITCZ, and you couldn't hardly tell that there was something special in here. But now we've got this kink, and when you get the intertropical convergence zone to kink, if you get a low developing on the side here that's oriented southwest to northeast, the winds tend to spin right in this area. This area is very favorable for cyclonic circulation as the winds come into the boundary, the convergence zone, and so you can see this starting to spin, and you can see how it looks. It looks very ready to start developing, and I don't know how well you can see this, but the low-level clouds in here start to tighten up and try to pull in a northwest direction towards the center of this broad low over here, and that's a strong sign that this is trying to develop a circulation. You might be able to see it a little better over here. The clouds at the end of the loop start to tighten up and come in. I personally can see it better on the large view, but it might be hard for those of you viewing this video. And this inflow, the negative part of this is that this inflow tightening coming in from the northwest is bringing in some drier air, and we have a tropical wave coming in behind this that is merging with the system, and the merging itself won't harm the system's development, but this wave is putting in some dry air from the northwest coming to the circulation, and if anything's going to limit the development potential of this over the next few days, it would be dry air coming to the circulation. But you can see this starting to wind up, and this should develop now. This, I don't think there's any doubt, at least in my mind, that this is going to develop. The Hurricane Center is also giving it a high chance. This is on its way right now. ASCAT pass this morning showed the tightening circulation, not closed yet, but it is a strong convergence zone with turning winds, and this should have no problem closing off. Again, because of the bent intertropical convergence zone, this is in a lucrative position to close off a circulation and start going to town over the next few days. Here's the 0Z run of the European from last night. Here's the low, 91L. It brings it west-northwest, and by day 5 has it in the northern Antilles here threatening Puerto Rico. We go farther out in time, it starts to strengthen the system, turns it into a hurricane in the southeastern Bahamas in 7 days, takes it through the Florida Keys just south of the Florida Peninsula and out into the central Gulf, where it continues to strengthen into a major hurricane by the end of the run. This is day 10. And again, this is one run, a long-range model forecast. That should not be, the details of it should not be trusted, but the overall message from the Europeans so far has been that the ridging will continue to tend to build in enough over here with the MJO coming back towards our area of the world that it will direct this thing west. And as I've been saying over the last couple of days, I don't think this is recurving, and that this is a threat to the United States later on, and certainly a shorter range threat to the Northern Antilles Islands and perhaps the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico over here as soon as 4 to 5 days from now. So now that the system is starting to develop, we might see the European start to lock on a little more. Once the European locks on, it's usually pretty good, and we'll have to see if the next several runs give us any kind of consistency. The European has been rather floppy so far with this system, so we'll have to see whether we can get any sort of consistent solution out of that model. Right now, this does look scary, but take it with a grain of salt, because there are a lot of unknowns, and there are a lot of things that could happen with this system. One of the things is, if we look at the intensity models, we notice very good agreement from the best models to just ignore these down here, but these are some of the best models up here, and you can see they take it to a hurricane by day 2 and 3, and then they start to level off after day 3 and 4 over here and start to weaken it. And the reason this would be is because it would start running into the Tut. Here's the European day 7, I believe, and the low is in here. This is 91L, and you can see that there's a Tut trough. This might be hard to see my cursor, but there's a Tut trough in here. Here's the ridge over here over the Caribbean. You can see this starts to get located on the northern side of the ridge where the surface low is, and it starts to get sheared over here from the southwest by the Tut. And this is something that could weaken the system as it approaches the northern Caribbean, northeast Caribbean, and coming over here towards the Bahamas if it starts to run into the Tut and get sheared. Now the European obviously continues to strengthen this because it takes it this way and blows it up into a major hurricane in the Gulf, which may not make much sense given the upper pattern that the model is showing, but it has its reasons apparently. Now the concern here is for something else to happen, such as if the ridge, this could still strengthen and not be weakened as much if this ridge balloons northwestward in here out of the tropics. This cuts off back southwest, this cuts off and back southwest, and you're left with a ridge in between that balloons up, and you're allowed to have this strengthen as it comes in towards the southeast US coast. This would be something that the 0Z GFS was showing last night. This is day 8 over here. You can see the Tut low comes off, this Tut low comes off and back southwest. The surface low is in here, and you get this ballooning ridge off the southeast US coast. And this will all depend on how strong the Tut is. This year so far it has trended to start getting weaker so far this month, and it has tended to fracture into more cold core upper lows. You got 1, 2, 3 lows over here, and if you can get the ridge to bust right through the Tut and balloon over here, you can get a ventilated environment for this to try to wind up east of Florida. So we'll have to see how that works out. But this is something nice to see for anyone concerned about landfall in the southeastern US, which I believe will happen somewhere. Can't really speculate on exactly where yet, but this could be some good news. If the Tut can hold its own over here and try to shear the system as it draws near, it may not be able to come more than a minimal hurricane right now, but we'll have to see how things evolve. This is still 7 to 8 days from the United States, 4 to 5 from the Caribbean, so it's we've got a lot of time for this pattern to change. The models have been all over the place with this. This pattern is very fragile in this part of the world right now because of the switching of the Madden-Julian oscillation. There's a lot that could change, so we'll continue to monitor it. Again, developing system could be a tropical cyclone as soon as tomorrow or Tuesday. Coming west-northwest will be in the northern Antilles, Northeast Caribbean Islands, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico area in 4 to 5 days. They should monitor the progress of this system closely. It will probably be strengthening on its approach to this area, but after this area, if it comes up towards the United States, we could see it weaken in this area due to the Tut, or we could also see it continue to strengthen like the European shows. We'll have to see. Right now I'm not going to make a call on the long-range intensity because we still do not have a fully developed system, and the models will need to lock onto this. But this will develop, I believe, and come west-northwest towards the islands, and they should be expecting a tropical cyclone, likely a tropical storm, or possibly a hurricane coming towards their area in 4 to 5 days. That would be Thursday or Friday. So they should be ready for that, and the United States should be ready for a possible long-range threat anywhere in this area in about a week. So we will continue watching the situation closely. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.